the law of large numbers and how Microsoft cannot trade $1 trillion, nor can Apple, nor can NVIDIA. Oh, wait, they are. And we'll have the 411 on that on today's Rebel's Edge. Bang. Welcome back. Indeed, it is the final Rebel's Edge of July. Tomorrow we kick off August, and my brother Pete over there thinks that maybe when we kick off August, we'll have to go back to the old playbook that says, the law of large numbers, Pete, you can't trade over $1 trillion or $2 trillion or $3 trillion or $4 trillion. But two companies in the U.S. right now are over $4 trillion. And one of them is Mr. Softy. So maybe we got to talk more about the law of large numbers, Pete.
Oh, yeah, it's obviously important. I mean, these bozos who always love to quote that. Now, I'd love to see what they're saying now, honestly, right? I mean, after you've gone past $1 trillion and then $2 trillion, then $3 trillion, then $4 trillion. I mean, at some point, what is that law of what? And what is what is a large number? What is it? Maybe they're still right. Maybe the large number is 10 trillion.
Well, it's why you're not watching those 3 and 4 letter networks right now, folks. And instead you're watching things like this, the Rebel's Edge, right here on Market Rebellion Television. Let's dive right into the macro minute, Pete. Because, yeah, the law of large numbers, it didn't hold Microsoft back. It traded right through $4 trillion. Now it pulled back just a little bit, but it hit $555, Pete. That's a pretty awesome jump. We'll talk about that in the stocks, but I'll also tell you about tariffs do kick in hard tomorrow. So any of these countries that haven't signed yet are going to be in a world of hurt starting tomorrow.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, John. I mean, you took the words out of my mouth. I mean, the fact that we have these earnings and we looked at it, we've been looking forward to these this week and literally last night, this morning kind of a thing. When you've got Robinhood, you've got Microsoft, you've got Meta, there's some pretty big numbers that come with that whole thing. And I've said it once, I'll say it again. I think that when you look at the earnings season, it really has helped save these markets on multiple occasions, especially on a day like today where a lot of people probably are squirming around a little bit, which is partially why I think we're seeing some of that selling, because it's kind of the unknown, right? I mean, the line in the sand has been August 1st. I've been saying for a while, I think you've said this too, John, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. But you know what? August 1st, yeah, maybe you push it out a little bit because you're seeing some progress and you want to get this thing done and you say, you know what, we'll give you a little bit more time. I'd be okay with that. But they've had some great moves already in terms of that whole thing. And the money that we've already taken in, John, from tariffs is pretty astronomical. But nobody wants to talk about that.
Yep, they don't, Pete, because it doesn't play into their narrative. And with these tariffs pending tomorrow, Pete, Trump always chickens out, or Taco. It doesn't seem like Trump is the one chickening out, folks.
No.
It seems like people are coming to the table, even after they threaten, as the European Union did, we're going to throw on a whole bunch more and really hurt you guys. Mm-hmm. That's funny, because we're the biggest buyer on earth, so who are you really hurting? Your business is driving your country into a recession, or do you come to the table and basically accept 15% tariffs on goods coming to us, whereas our goods going to you are at 0? Who does it sound like caved on that one, Pete?
Sounds pretty good.
All right, let's hit fantastic futures. Copper prices, huge decline. When's the last time you saw a 20% decline in copper in a day? The answer is you haven't. This is one of the biggest moves copper has made, Pete. And the decline follows President Trump's announcement of a 50% import tariff. That will certainly hurt the folks, and that's both on raw and refined copper. So I'd say that's my fantastic future for the day, Pete.
Yeah, and looking at the volatility, John, which we always do, both of us do. It's not just me, but you and I are always looking at that. And I'll tell you what, following the Fed news, we saw a pretty nice spike up. It got up and over 17. It pulled right back again, and here we are, John, somewhere in the 15s. It's moving around a little bit. 1475 to call 1575 maybe is the range that we're seeing right now. And it's going to probably move around depending on what actually happens come tomorrow, right? August 1st. So it's a big date, but when you look at it and you see that spike to 17 and it immediately kind of pulls back, John, it says a lot about where people's comfort level is, at least for now. And we'll see if it stays with that as we get into tomorrow's trade. That we won't know till tomorrow.
Well, one thing we know right now today, Pete, is that Meta absolutely destroyed on earnings, absolutely crushed it. I mean, it's hard to imagine. And by the way, 2 days ago, when the stock was $716 a share, somebody came in and bought a lot of upside calls. And those calls are making beaucoup bucks today. Shares jumping almost 12% right now, Pete, and holding it. They reported a 22% year-over-year revenue jump to $47.5 billion. This was an absolute blowout for them. And you know, you got to give them credit. Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, everybody raising targets on Meta. I mean, it's a good day to be Zuckerberg or a shareholder in Meta.
Yeah, not so bad, John. I mean, when you look at these numbers, you look at the multi-trillion-dollar valuation that this thing has at this point in time, new highs, all-time highs, across the board, heavy volume. Volume is absolutely extraordinary too, John, on top of everything else. Operating margins, that was up pretty big. They talked about AI and some of those things that are part of it, but net income being up about 36%. You look at almost every single, maybe probably every single metric, and I don't see any flaws at all. As a matter of fact, Morgan Stanley doesn't see any flaws either because they just moved their price target up from 750 to 850. So a lot going on in a positive way. Zuckerberg, for all the flack that guy has gotten over the last, I don't know how many years for cutting at certain times and then absolutely exploding in terms of what they've been able to do. This guy has been an unbelievable CEO who's been doing an unbelievable job, I think, with how he has designed how they're going to go to the next step and the next step and the next step and the acquisitions and everything else that goes along with it. I think you got to give Zuckerberg a heck of a lot of credit for how he has been in charge of this company now as a public company for quite a few years.
Well, I've got a pun to start the next one off, Pete. Shake Shack, which is down double digits. They served up, I like that, better than expected Q2 results. 12% rise in sales. However, Pete, they do have mounting costs. And their costs, they're either going to pass them on to the consumer, which is one of the options, or they're going to take less profit going forward. And that's something that a lot of the analysts are worried about here, Pete. So they already provide you with, you know, a good product, I'll say, that a lot of people like. One of our former pals on a 4-letter network really likes some Shake Shack. But it might not be enough to drive or to hold on to the gains that the stock has had this year. So it's seeing a pretty significant pullback.
Yeah, and the sales, John, is an interesting thing because, like you and I both know, you can beat metrics, but what does that mean, really? I mean, it's great, and it's what your yardstick, so to speak. But I think that part of the deal also is I like to see the growth over. That's why we look at, well, what was this thing a year ago? Well, a year ago, their sales were up 4%. Now they're up 1.8%. So that shows you that you're slowing down a little bit. On top of that, John, I would just check for fun. I wanted to just take a look, like, why is this stock under so much pressure? There's a heck of a lot of shorts in it, number one. Number two, I took a little peek at the PE, the price to earnings that they've got. If you take a peek at that, John, you're going to find out something that this is multiple. I'm talking about triple-digit PE. So is this thing kind of expensive? And was it kind of expensive even higher? The answer is absolutely yes. So if the analysts out there are looking at this thing close enough, they look at a pretty decent quarter, but I think they're also looking at it saying, maybe there's a little something to this selling that they're seeing today, and maybe it has to do with this thing is a little bit overpriced for what they're doing.
Yeah, well, I would be right there with people who say This is an expensive stock that I don't know how long it can justify that kind of multiple, Pete.
Right.
And obviously today it's cutting that multiple a little. Needs to cut it a lot, I think. All right, Microsoft, Pete, Mr. Softy. I know you were arguing with many of the traders on the desk years ago when they were looking at putting the head of Ford as the head of Microsoft, which made about as much sense as a screen door on a submarine. But luckily, the people at Microsoft, including the board members, they weren't having it. And instead, they elevated a guy that you just sang his praises, Satya Nadella. And what has he done? Well, let's see, Pete. I remember arguing with Heather Bellini, the analyst at Goldman Sachs, when she said it wasn't worth $30. Traded 555 today. So maybe that's why Ms. Bellini didn't make partner at Goldman, Pete. I'm not sure, but that was a pretty bad call by her. And Goldman Sachs reiterating a buy rating now with their new analysts that have replaced her. And we had unusual in this one too, folks. Look at this, 3 different times from, in the 400s to just over 500, and the stock exploded to 555. What do you say about this one, Pete?
Unbelievable. Probably as good a quarter, if not the best quarter that they've ever had. Not just like in the last year or something like that, John. AI supported is certainly something that, we look at that, and that's why Satya Nadella was the right guy back then and still is the right guy right now. I think that when you look at it, this is pretty much flawless. Everywhere you look, they did an unbelievable job. They raised their guidance. They did the things that they needed to do. The benefits, because of AI and all the rest of the efficiencies that brings with it. You also had an upgrade out of KeyBank, John, as well. So like you said, all-time highs, 555.45 was the exact number or whatever, but strong volumes in this one, a lot of turnover. And as a matter of fact, your good friend in Goldman Sachs, I don't know who's in charge of it right now, but they raised it up to 630 as the price target. So yeah, there's something to the fact that they literally, there wasn't anything where you could say, yeah, but there was no yeah buts about this one. This quarter was fantastic for Microsoft.
Yeah, and Pete, Azure and their other cloud services generated over $75 billion in revenue, 34% up year over year. I mean, that's incredible. Imagine with all of large numbers out there, Pete, I'm just saying, imagine generating $75 billion from one segment of their portfolio. That's pretty amazing. And obviously that kind of outperformance is why people love Satya Nadella and what Mr. Softy has been doing. All right, let's do one more. And yes, we also have unusual activity in this one, Pete. Western Digital, data storage beat Q4 estimates, and they issued upbeat guidance. And why not? If you're in their space, in these data centers and so forth, Pete, there's lots of money to make. And boy, somebody bought just 2 days ago some Western Digital calls that are moving up pretty rapidly today, Pete. I'm just saying, it was about a $69 stock, and today it traded through 76.
Well, they guide above the street. We've heard this time and time again. This is why, John, I think it's so important that going into the earnings season, when you and I both were talking about this many, many times, about the fact that earnings season will prove it all out. And now we are seeing it. And so the numbers that are being produced right now are absolutely incredible. WDC did a great job. Their earnings were $1.66. That beat $1.48, which was what the target was. Revenue was up about 30%. Their guidance was strong. They also added a dividend. I mean, you could go on and just say, what an unbelievable quarter these guys were able to put up there. By the way, pretty decent sized shorts. They're not feeling very good. Stock up somewhere between 5-6%, but it's been going up in that direction for a while. And they got a 13 PE. So we were just talking about the price to earnings that we were seeing in some of the other names like Shake Shack. And I realized that's a burger joint. This is a tech play. But nonetheless, John, a 13 PE versus the multiple plus 100 PE that we were talking about in Shake Shack. You can understand why this is a name that people probably are pretty interested in looking at even closer today, because I think the future for them and their outlook says it all. They have a very nice future.
Well, by the way, folks, Pete, on News Nation at 3 o'clock Eastern time today. And I will be on at 5 o'clock, 5 o'clock Eastern time. So you've got bookends. Pete at 3 p.m. News Nation. I'll be on at 5 p.m. News Nation. And that should be pretty cool, Pete, because, we've got, I think her last name is Neves, Pete. Neves or Neves. Alicia Neves or Neves. Mean her no disrespect. I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah. But our usual friend is on vacation for this week. So she is stepping into his big shoes. So that should be fun.
That should be fun. I don't know why they're splitting us up, John, but they are. Maybe it's just to try to kind of catch up and get this, that, and that guy. It should be pretty fun. All right, are we ready for some sports?
Let's do it.
All right, we're going to jump in, and here's what I got for you, John. Football starts today. Tonight, actually, the NFL kicks it all off. This is obviously preseason, but nonetheless, NFL, full uniforms. It's not just a practice. This is a preseason game. It's a Hall of Fame game. And this ought to be a lot of fun, John. You got the Chargers. You've got Harbaugh over there, of course, and this guy's one of the all-time greats, and he has put together a heck of a team in a short period of time. Some of it was built for him, but he's been building it as well. And expect them to be a team this year, John, that puts up a bunch of beasts up front, not just the usual 5. There's going to be 6 or 7 guys out there. Some of them are tight ends. Some are extra linemen, but they're going to run the football. And it's going to be really interesting to see how well this finally getting into this second year for Harbaugh. I think this is going to be a special year. I think I'm pretty more than excited about this one. But by the way, and they're playing the Detroit Lions, who we know how great they were last year. I guess what we're going to have to try to find out, John, is what happens to a team like the Lions who lose 2 coordinators, the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator, right? It's not that complicated, but it's somewhat complicated when you bring in somebody else. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how fast they are able to get themselves back to where they maybe were last year, if they can do that. I think they can. But when you got a guy like Dan Campbell in charge, John, you always have an opportunity there that's going to be great. I thought I'd just give you a couple of quick ones, and you tell me if you agree with this. So for the AFC, here's my top 5 teams as of this year. Baltimore, Buffalo, Kansas City, the Chargers, and the Steelers. Now, a lot of other people have got Cincinnati there and blah, blah, blah. And it's not that I think Cincinnati's great. But the Steelers, I'm more and more convinced daily, as you know, we've talked about a little bit, but I think Aaron Rodgers actually is settling into who he is now, his age that he is now, and he's got Tomlin on top of him. Tomlin takes no crap from anybody, John. So that's why I think that Aaron Rodgers, he's a great guy. He's a free-spirited guy and all the rest of that stuff. You and I know him. We like him. But I don't think this is going to be the Aaron Rodgers we saw with the Jets. I think he can put up the same numbers. I know he's getting older, but I think he can put up the same numbers because they got so much talent on the team. So that's my AFC. And then on the NFC, I got Philadelphia, Detroit, Tampa, San Francisco, and Washington. And everybody cast out San Francisco because of what happened last year. They finished at the bottom of their division and everything. They didn't play very, very well, but that was mostly because they had everybody hurt. The left tackle was out. Your tight end is out. Multiple receivers are out. The best running back potentially in football with McCaffrey, he was out. When you lose that many people, and you had it on the defensive side of the ball too, it's pretty tough to win. I think if they can stay healthy, John, San Francisco is going to be back to being the San Francisco we're used to. But I like Washington in there too. Look, that quarterback, I don't think it's too big for him. He showed it last year. I think he'll do it again this year.
Well, and on a sad note, Pete, as we kick off the football season, Shannon Sharpe getting dumped over at ESPN. And he was accused of sexual harassment. And I'm not going to comment on that. I know nothing about it other than what's in the press. I'm sorry it came down to that because I did enjoy him on the media, Pete, both with Skip Bayless and with his new deal that was supposed to be about $100 million deal.
Jeez.
But his former girlfriend sued him for this and wanted 50 mil, allegedly settled for $23 million, Pete. And so that's a rather sad thing for a guy that's Pro Football Hall of Fame, about to hit the ball out of the ballpark with a great show that's basically featuring him. And now ESPN just said, done. And they walked away. So it happens. So I'm sorry for Shannon, though. Like I say, he and Sterling I thought were great players, Pete. They obviously were great players. And Shannon's in the Hall of Fame. Sterling didn't make it there. But I think it's just a sad commentary that some allegations like this can cause him to basically turn his life upside down.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. By the way, on a more up note, Jared Allen, Minnesota Vikings. I'll tell you what, John, great football player and colorful guy. I mean, he's just some big old hick who he's out there basically when he used to get his sacks, he'd always give him the old lasso sort of thing, like he was out there playing in the rodeo, which you just gotta love the guy. He was a lot of fun for the Minnesota Vikings, and he's going into the Hall of Fame. So congrats to him. All right, John, I got another quickie for you.
All right,
let's break down the Raiders for just a second. And here's why I say that. Everybody kind of the Raiders are not talked about the way they always used to be talked about, right? And I think part of that was coaching the last couple of years. They just didn't have probably the right guy for the right players and all the rest of it. But here's what is exciting for me. They got Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll has done it at every level. He done it at USC. He did it up in Seattle. He was my defensive back coach when I played for the Vikings, and when he was much younger man. But he doesn't show his age. He looks happy as hell. He looks like a guy he wanted to get back in the game. When he sort of semi-retired or whatever, or pushed out, whatever it was. We just didn't know what the story was. Well, we're starting to get the story. And by the way, age-wise, just yesterday we were talking about, some of these guys that are a little bit older. Would they be interested? Nick Saban, does he want to come back? Yeah, I don't know. But if he does, I think there's a lot of people out there who'd have a lot of interest, kind of like Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll's with the Raiders, John. I love what they did with the draft. I love what they did with the free agency. I think that they have put the right players in place for them, including Geno Smith. Does he have great numbers? No. But under Pete Carroll, that guy actually played very, very well and was one of those shockingly good quarterbacks. Not great, but good quarterbacks. And that might be all they need because they've got a heck of a lot of players on the offensive and defensive side both. I think that the Raiders could be a lot of fun this year, John. I don't know how far they go, but they could potentially be a playoff team. Not a Super Bowl team, in my opinion, but they could be a playoff team that could maybe go through the first round or two because I think Pete Carroll's that good.
Well, and one of the things, Pete, that used to always be in favor of your Minnesota Vikings was home field advantage. Through the playoffs, Minnesota played outside back in the day, folks. And it was miserable cold. And Pete and I sat in those stands freezing. And you were half a mile away from the field. I mean, if you were on the first baseline, which is where we were, which is the 50-yard line in how that stadium was configured, Pete, Met Stadium, my God, you were easily 100 yards from where the field was, because in order to stretch it to almost the 120 yards, because end zones are 10 yards apiece and so forth, in order to stretch it all the way, they had to cut out a piece of the one side, the end zone, Pete, just to squeeze it in, sort of like the Bears did back when they played at Wrigley. Yeah. Well, I think the Raiders, long-winded explanation, have a similar home field advantage because when those teams come in there, I'll just say there's a lot of distractions in Las Vegas, Pete.
I'm glad you cleaned that up.
I think a lot of people that go to Atlanta, and Atlanta should have a home field advantage as well as, and I think both of them do, Pete.
Yeah.
Because of the same sort of issue. But it is an advantage because those players might be a little worn out if they're up late at night instead of getting some shut-eye before the games. And they have to be in by NFL rules the day before the game. Yeah. So, of course, that means they're in the night before the game, too.
You're probably just talking about the gambling side is what you're
saying. Yeah. I'm sure. Yeah, just casinos. It's the casinos that do it. Yeah. Well, folks, thanks for joining us. As we said, we will be completely sold out by tomorrow. I think we have 2 tickets left right now. So if you guys want to come to Florida, the 19th and 20th of September, 19th is a Friday. We're going to be doing live trading. So if you're somebody who's there pointing and clicking and trying to load up your screen and saying, well, if you buy this one, what should I sell here and so forth? Yeah. We can help you live on the 19th. The 20th, it's all about education and so forth. A lot of great stories. And it's limited to 120 people in the facility at Grant Cardone's headquarters. So there's so many reasons to want to be one of those last 2 people to buy those tickets, because I guarantee tomorrow, gone.
Yep.
But you can still get them today. Click that QR code and join us. And Pete and I will be back Monday next week in August, 1 o'clock.
1 p.m.